Washington, D.C. was at 86 degrees on Wednesday. By Friday morning, it had snow on the ground, and right now, at this exact hour, Phoenix is sitting at 98 degrees, the highest temperature that city has ever recorded before March 26th in more than 130 years of records. While Minneapolis is at 22 degrees under a blizzard warning, and St. Paul is reporting zero visibility, and that right there is what keeps me up at night. The weekend has not even started yet. Not by a long shot. The number that reframes everything going into Sunday is this: the Storm Prediction Center has upgraded the severe weather risk to level 3 out of 5 enhanced, running from Indianapolis back through Fort Smith, Arkansas. That is not a slight risk. Not a marginal risk that is the same category that was sitting over the map before some of the most damaging outbreak days in recent memory. And from the blizzard side, the number I genuinely did not expect to be writing this week, the 10% probability scenario on the ensemble models, puts Iron Mountain, Michigan, at 42 inches of snow from this system. And the more conservative mainstream forecast is still calling for 40 to 45 inches near Green Bay in the UP of Michigan, which would rank among the most significant March snowstorms in recorded history for that region. 3 separate weather disasters, 1 storm system, same weekend. Let me break down exactly where each one lands, and more importantly, which one is coming for your neck of the woods right now, today. Start with what already happened today, because it sets the stage for everything that follows. A family in Warren County, Illinois, lost their home to an EF1 tornado that came through just hours ago, with winds clocked at over 100 miles per hour tearing through the area. Indianapolis is at 38 degrees right now, with the cleanup still underway. People still dealing with the shock of what came through, and the exact same atmospheric setup that produced that tornado is about to get a whole lot stronger and more organized by Sunday afternoon. What we saw today in Warren County is this system at its early stage. And Sunday is when it fully matures and intensifies. Meanwhile, the current blizzard is already no joke. Milwaukee at 28 degrees under a full blizzard warning. Madison at 26 with the same. Detroit at 32 with 50-mile-per-hour gusts also under a blizzard warning. Minneapolis at 22 degrees with 55-mile-per-hour gusts right now. And St. Paul reporting near zero visibility as we are talking. And if you are in any of those cities and even thinking about hitting the road this afternoon, I would strongly encourage you to reconsider, because these conditions are already dangerous and they are absolutely not improving before tonight. But here is what stops me. Cold forecasters are describing this current storm as, and I am quoting, "Nothing compared to what is on the way late Saturday into Sunday and Monday. This storm, with active blizzard warnings across 4 states, is the appetizer. Storm 1 is already rough and dangerous out there right now. Storm 2 is going to make Storm 1 look like a warm-up act, and I mean that with absolutely zero exaggeration whatsoever. The single detail forecasters are watching more closely than anything else for Sunday's severe weather is the dew point, and I have been watching this model run all morning. So let me break this down in plain terms. Right now, the warm sector dew points are forecast in the upper 50s to low 60s. And if those come in just 3 to 5 degrees higher than currently modeled, we go from a serious damaging wind event to a setup where multiple tornadoes become, in forecasters' own words. Easy to produce that 3 to 5 degree difference is the single variable that separates a rough Sunday afternoon from a potentially historic severe weather day. And we will not know which side of that line we land on until Saturday morning, when the overnight models sharpen the picture significantly. The zone with the greatest potential for isolated strong tornadoes is the mid-Mississippi River Valley and the Ozarks. That is where discrete supercells could fire ahead of the main squall line before everything gets organized into a single band. And when you have a supercell out in front of a line in an environment with this much wind shear, you have got the ingredients for a significant, potentially long-track tornado. Forecasters are not ruling that out, and neither am I. Level 3 enhanced risk, 60 to 80 mile per hour winds. Discrete supercells possible in the Ozarks ahead of the main line. That is Sunday afternoon plan accordingly right now. And the part of Sunday that worries me most is after dark, the most elevated tornado threat overnight runs through Indiana, Tennessee, Kentucky, and western Ohio. And most folks in those areas are going to be sound asleep when that line pushes through. Embedded tornadoes in a nighttime squall line are likely. And a squall line does not slow down, does not warn you twice, and does not wait for you to check your phone whether that line crosses your county at 11 p.m. or 2 in the morning. If your weather alerts are not set to break through your do not disturb, you will not know until it is already on top of you. Drop your city in the comments right now. Blizzard zone up in Wisconsin or Michigan. Severe weather corridor through the Ohio Valley. East Coast Monday event. Or Southern Appalachian Snow Watch. I read every single one of these by region. And your location genuinely shapes what we cover in tomorrow's update. Now Chicago is in a genuinely tricky spot this weekend. And I want to make sure people in that area hear this clearly. The city sits right on the boundary between the severe weather zone and the winter storm zone. Chicagoans are looking at a Sunday where the morning could bring damaging wind gusts from the severe weather. And then within just a few hours of those storms clearing out, several inches of snow start piling up right behind the cold front. Chicago is already sitting at 34 degrees today under a high wind warning with gusts to 60 miles per hour. So the city is already getting a preview of what Sunday looks like. And that kind of flip from severe weather to winter storm happens a whole lot faster than most people expect. Snowfall rates of 3 to 4 inches per hour are forecast for central Wisconsin and the UP of Michigan. By early Sunday morning, those are rates that can drop a solid foot of snow before noon and reduce visibility to near zero in minutes. The storm system stretches all the way from western Pennsylvania to the Dakotas. And the freezing rain corridor mixing in just south of the heaviest snow is the part of this setup that I think is genuinely underrated in terms of danger. 3 to 4 inches per hour in central Wisconsin in mid-March. That is not a typo. And it is not an outlier model run either. Now follow me on this. There are areas in Nebraska that have seen only 1 inch of snow all winter long. And they are going to get measurable accumulation this weekend from a mid-March blizzard. Lord have mercy. That sentence should not make meteorological sense in March. And that reach tells you everything about how unusually deep and organized this storm system really is. City by city, Minneapolis 5 to 22 inches, lean toward the higher end. Rochester, Minnesota, 6 to 20. Eau Claire, Minnesota, 6 to 25. South Dakota, Brookings, 6 to 12. Watertown, 6 to 14. If your city is on that list, drop it in the comments and tell me what you are seeing. Because these mid-March totals would be remarkable in January, let alone the week before St. Patrick's Day. Wisconsin is the absolute bullseye of this storm northern areas in the darkest shading at 2 feet or more, with the high-end ensemble pushing Green Bay and the UP of Michigan toward 40 to 45 inches combined across the full event, and that 10% Iron Mountain scenario at 42 inches is low probability, which means it is not the forecast, but it is sitting there on the map. And in my experience with deep March blizzards, the 10% scenario has a habit of showing up more often than the odds would suggest. When even the low probability scenario puts 42 inches on the board, you plan for the worst, you prep for the middle, and you hope for the best. We are at the halfway mark, and do not miss what comes next. Because the snow going south is the story that is going to catch the most people completely off guard if you have been focused on the Wisconsin blizzard maps all week. Which is completely understandable given those numbers. You may not have noticed that a whole separate snow story is quietly setting up for the southern half of the country. And it involves cities and communities that have not been mentioned in a single blizzard headline this week and are not expecting to be. Missouri and Illinois could see rain switching to snow overnight Sunday into Monday. And that transition can happen faster than most drivers expect. There is an honest signal on the Euro ensemble for a couple of inches of snow as far south as nearly St. Louis, Tennessee, and Kentucky are both in play for accumulating snow as the cold air catches up with the precipitation. And the tricky thing about a rain to snow flip is that drivers out on the road when it happens rarely realize how fast the pavement turns slick underneath them. This is precisely the kind of forecast that catches communities completely flat-footed when they have spent all week watching the Wisconsin blizzard maps and just assumed everything south of Iowa was going to be a plain old rain event. The GFS model is showing moderate to heavy snow across the central and southern Appalachians on Monday, Gatlinburg, Tennessee, the Tri-Cities area of Johnson City and Bristol, and more than half a foot of snow possible for parts of West Virginia. Now I will be straight with you. The GFS can get a little carried away at range, but the Euro is nodding its head in the same direction. And when two independent models start agreeing on snow deep in the Smoky Mountains in the middle of March, that is the kind of signal that deserves a second look and not a dismissal. St. Louis to Gatlinburg to Johnson City to West Virginia. That is how far south the snow is reaching this weekend. Then Monday arrives, and Monday is where this storm system does something that genuinely surprised me when I first saw it in the model data. The severe weather threat does not end Sunday night. It picks itself back up and shifts directly to the East Coast. There is a real risk of damaging winds. Quarter to half dollar-sized hail, and a few tornadoes running from New England all the way back down to Georgia. And that has forecasters using the specific phrase, rare severe weather event in New England. A tornado threat in New England in the middle of March is not something you say out loud casually, and they are not saying it casually. The reason Monday sets up the way it does is genuinely worth understanding. Normally, a cold front loses a significant amount of its punch after crossing the Appalachians. The mountains wring out the moisture and the system weakens, but this one re-energizes over the warmer coastal waters to the east. And when a highly charged cold front meets that coastal instability, the atmosphere does not know or care that it is March. That combination is exactly how you get isolated tornadoes in Connecticut and Massachusetts. And it is why the East Coast from Georgia to New England cannot afford to treat Monday as an afterthought. We are at the 3-minute mark, and I want to talk directly to folks on the East Coast for just a second if you are in Georgia, the Carolinas, Virginia, D.C., Maryland, or anywhere in New England. Monday is your weather day, not Sunday. Sunday morning, you can follow the Midwest and Great Plains, getting hammered, but then Monday morning, you wake up and it is your turn. And the folks who treat Sunday as a spectator sport and then scramble Monday morning are the ones who end up flat-footed. Make sure Monday is already on your radar before Saturday night arrives. Now let me tell you the one that will not make the blizzard headlines but is going to blindside a lot of families. Dallas is sitting at 75 degrees with wildfire level wind alerts right now. Lubbock at 68 with dangerous fire weather conditions, and I reckon most folks in North Texas are not thinking about frozen pipes on a 75-degree sunny Friday. But that same cold front bringing snow to Gatlinburg is going to crash Dallas from 75 degrees to near freezing within 24 hours. And water lines in homes that were never insulated for sub-freezing temperatures are going to be at real risk. We saw what happens in Texas when the pipes freeze. And that lesson is worth remembering before Saturday night. A family in Frisco moved down from Minnesota and never got around to insulating their pipes. That cold front does not care where you move from. The Arctic blast behind this storm is no small thing. Forecasters are calling it the coldest air in over 3 weeks, especially across the Great Plains. Midwest and Ohio Valley, Minneapolis at 22 degrees today is going to push toward 0 degrees Fahrenheit as the actual overnight low Des Moines. Already seeing snow at 32, Chicago at 34 under a high wind warning with 60-mile-per-hour gusts, and Atlanta sitting at 66 degrees on a Friday afternoon. Could drop to the 20s Fahrenheit by Monday morning, which is below freezing in a city where the azaleas are usually starting to bloom in mid-March. And the infrastructure is simply not built for that. And then there is the other end of the weather map. Phoenix at 98 degrees today is the highest temperature recorded in that city before March 26th in more than 130 years. Las Vegas at 94, Sacramento records at 84, Riverside at 92, San Jose at 82, running 15 degrees above average spring training in Arizona. Right now feels like July, and the same ridge driving that heat is what blocks any significant severe weather return from March 18th through the 26th. Meaning the brutal stretch of the past 2 weeks genuinely has a break coming on the other side of this weekend. Phoenix at 98 degrees and shattering records. St. Paul at near zero visibility under a blizzard warning. Same weather map, same Friday afternoon. Absolutely no exaggeration whatsoever. Your preparedness checklist, real quick. By where you live, if you are in the blizzard zone from Minneapolis through Wisconsin into Michigan and upstate New York, the decision point for travel is today, not Saturday morning, because blizzard conditions are already active and Storm 2 kicks off Saturday night. If you are in the severe weather corridor from the Arklatex through Indianapolis and the Ohio Valley, Sunday morning is your last calm window. Use it to confirm your shelter plan. Plug in your NOAA weather radio with fresh batteries. And have a second way to get warnings that will wake you up after dark. And if you are on the East Coast from Georgia to New England, do not be scared. But absolutely be prepared. Because Monday afternoon is when the energy arrives, and that is not the time to be figuring out your plan from scratch. Check on your neighbors before Saturday night, especially the older folks and the ones who do not have a working weather radio. That one phone call or knock on the door could genuinely matter. What I want you to drop in the comments, not just your city, but your specific question: are you in Wisconsin or Michigan wanting an hour-by-hour snowfall timeline for Sunday? Are you near Indianapolis or Fort Smith needing to know the exact window when the squall line hits your area? Are you in the Smokies near Gatlinburg or down in the Tri-Cities wondering whether that Monday snow signal actually verifies and what it could mean for your town? Or are you on the East Coast watching the Monday severe weather threat build and you want to know what it means for your specific county? Drop your region and your specific question, and I will work through as many of them as I can in tomorrow's update. I keep coming back to something a forecaster said this week, and I cannot get it out of my head. This is a very rare system for mid-March. And what makes it rare is not any single piece of it. It is the combination all landing in the same 5-day window, a level 3 enhanced severe weather risk, and a potential 40-plus inch blizzard happening at the exact same time, followed by a rare New England severe weather event the very next day, followed by an Arctic blast that sends Atlanta to the 20s, followed by 98-degree record-shattering heat in Phoenix. Any single one of those would be the lead weather story of the week, all four of them stacked on top of each other. That is the kind of pattern that forecasters write in their notes and bring up years later when someone asks them about the strangest weather week they ever tracked. The last thing I want to leave you with, and I say this with all sincerity, the gap between when Sunday's severe weather clears and when the Arctic air floods in hard behind it is measured in hours, not days. And the folks who get caught flat-footed in a setup like this are always the ones who thought they had until Monday morning to figure things out now as for the longer view. There is no significant severe weather return expected from around March 18th through the 26th. So a real and genuine break is coming. Warmth rebuilds by Wednesday and Thursday. And the brutal stretch that has defined the last 2 weeks does have an end in sight, but you have got to get through this weekend first. And that means being fully squared away before Saturday night arrives. Not scrambling to catch up Sunday morning when the line is already painting red on the radar. From 98 degrees in Phoenix today to 42 inches of snow possible in Michigan, one storm system, one country, one weekend. That is March 2026, folks, and the weekend is not done yet. Tomorrow's video comes down to 3 things. The overnight model runs will settle first. Whether those dew points across the warm sector verify at current values or come in 3 to 5 degrees higher. because that variable flips Sunday from a wind event into a multi-tornado outbreak second, where the low-pressure track finally settles. Because a 50-mile shift north or south is the difference between cold rain and a paralyzing blizzard for Minneapolis and Green Bay in third. Whether the Monday East Coast signal strengthens enough to warrant an enhanced risk upgrade from the southeast through New England, turn notifications on right now. Because if the overnight runs shift, that update goes out before sunrise, and on a setup this genuinely complex. The people who see it first are the ones who have the most time to make smart decisions for themselves and their families.